Hey, this is Brandon. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you're watching this, you may have come upon it randomly, or maybe a family member or a friend sent it to you. Maybe they had a great response with stem cell therapy, and maybe I'm the one that led them to it. I don't do sales, I just educate. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but I go around the country teaching people what stem cells are and how it can improve your daily life. And so you can age gracefully and more as you want to get back on the floor and play with your grandkids again. This is something that I've actually received a stem cell therapy treatment. If you can't tell by now, I am 93 years old. No, not really. I'm younger than that. But I have been treated. Maybe you're in pain today. Maybe it's neck pain, back pain, maybe something alongside those lines. Maybe you've had shots for pain before. Jack Daniels, tequila, maybe a cortisone shot. You know, our pain affects more people than just us. We wish that our pain didn't leave just us, but the truth is that people can feel us. They don't just see us. And when we're in pain and feeling pain, people feel that. It leaves us. And maybe I never realized this more than when a patient called me. And I answered my phone, and I meet a number of new people every single week when I go around the country doing these seminars. And a lady called me not too long ago. And when I answered, I said, "This is Brandon," and she was already crying. And that's never a good thing when a lady calls you and she's already crying. And I was a little bit confused, but turned empathetic. And I'm like, "How can I help you?" She's like, "Brandon," she's like, "I'm not mad at all." She's like, "You know my dad." And she said her dad's name. She said, "Your company treated my dad, and he was in so much pain. He wasn't living life the way that he wanted to live, but you guys gave him stem cell therapy." She said, "Brandon, I don't need anything, but I just want to tell you, thank you. Thank you that I have my dad back." She said, "I haven't seen this version of my dad in 10 to 15 years. He's back on the floor playing with his grandkids. He's on his hands and his knees. He's smiling. He's enjoying life again." She said, "My kids have never seen this version of their granddad. Brandon, I don't need anything. I know you're busy. Just thank you." And she got off the phone. You know, our pain affects the people around us. Someone that I listen to, and one of the top motivators that's been in the country the last 25, 30 years, his name is Tony Robbins. And I want to play this video of Tony Robbins just for the next few minutes, not to motivate you, but he's been treated with this stem cell therapy. So I want you to see what he had to say about it.
Tony Robbins. He's a leading life and business strategist, best-selling author of some of the most popular self-help books. His latest book is called Life Force: How New Breakthroughs in Precision Medicine Can Transform the Quality of Your Life and Those You Love. It covers everything from sleep to aging to Alzheimer's. Tony Robbins joins us this morning from Palm Beach, Florida. Tony, nice to see you.
Nice to see you again, Rosanna. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm wondering what prompted you to write this book, Life Force?
What really triggered me, I've always been involved in this, was I had an accident that they told me was going to end my career. I was chasing a 22-year-old down the side of a mountain, and he was doing things I didn't know how to do on a snowboard. And at the end of it, I thought I broke my neck. It was so bad. But they tore all my rotator cuffs severely. I was in like a 9/9 pain, not able to sleep. And I went to all these doctors, and it was surgery, surgery, surgery. And I said, "Well, what's the recovery?" "Well, you may not be able to lift your arm above your shoulder. It might take 4 to 6 months." And, you know, I'm with groups of 15, 20,000 people at a time. I can't do it with one arm. And then one doctor pulled me aside, and he said, "Listen, I think you're an incredible person, but I just got to shoot you straight." And he showed me my spine. And I've had spinal stenosis for a long time, a lot of pain. And he said, "Your life as you know it is over. No more jumping, no more snowboarding, no more anything you're doing." He said, "You just can't do it." He said, "You might not be able to walk with one good hit." And it was like a gut punch. And I was like, okay, I just can't give up on this. My whole life has been finding answers. So I went to Dr. Peter Diamandis, who's a good friend and partner of mine. He's a co-author now of the book. And he knows everybody in the industry. And I said, "I've heard about stem cells. I know some, I've heard bad things about, some great. I know the FDA has approved it for 80 diseases. You know, 1 million people have had them. But where would be the best place to go?" And he said, "You got to meet Dr. Bob Harari, who's now my partner and also co-author in this book. He was one of the first people to discover stem cells." And so I sat down with him. He said, "Tony, the ones you need for something this strong, you need 4-day-old stem cells." I said, "I don't want fetal tissue." He goes, no, it's cords. People throw away the cord and placenta during birth." And he said, "It has the most powerful stem cells." He told me where to go. I did 3 days where I just did an IV and a shot. The first day, I was just relaxed. The second day, I woke up, and not only was my shoulder perfect, but I stood up with no pain in my spine for the first time in 14 years. And I got the MRI, my shoulder's perfect. So it's like I became obsessed. And I found it wasn't just stem cells. There is a regeneration revolution. Precision medicine is coming about right now with technology.
But
That
why
if
do-
you just look at certain things, you miss out on what's available.
I know, Tony, why aren't, like when you go to the doctors, like your regular doctors that you go to, why aren't they talking about this precision medicine? Like stem cells, for example, I was very curious about because friends of mine are going to Costa Rica to get them. I don't know anything about it.
Well, if you use your own stem cells and you're over the age of 35 or 40, they drop off the cliff. So those are called autologous. If you do allogenic, which is a big word, it just means from someone else, you can get those stem cells that are 4 days old and they have the force of life. It's what makes a baby be able to grow so quickly. And so what I can tell you is there's so many breakthroughs. Like literally you can heal in days instead of weeks or months. Jack Nicklaus, who's one of the greatest golfers of all time, endorsed my book because I met him at the Vatican. I went to the Vatican. Believe it or not, the Pope every 2 years brings in all the best doctors in the world. That's how far stem cells have come.
Wow.
And while I was there, I was the cleanup speaker. Well, I attended every class and I met Jack there. And Jack was supposed to have spinal fusion, which only works about 50% of the time and it limits your ability to move. And he did stem cells instead. And now he's 82 years old. He couldn't stand for 10 minutes without pain. Now he plays golf and tennis at 82.
Tony, are there risks? Are there risks to this?
The FDA has approved stem cells for over 80 different diseases, and they're the most rigorous in the world. My risk for the surgery was much greater than it was for the stem cells, and I got the result in a few days instead of 4 to 6 months of rehab and perhaps breaking it down again.
It's pretty amazing, right? One of the things that I want to highlight is what Tony was able to do after he was treated, what activities he was able to do. Now think back to your life. What activity do you wish that you could do? For some of my patients, I have patients as young as 26. I've had patients as old as 102. Chances are you're somewhere in between that. If you're over 102, leave a comment, right? I want to meet you. But we've treated a wide range of patients on this. But for some people, they're in so much pain, they just want to be able to walk to their car again without pain, or take a walk around the neighborhood, or maybe it's to play with their grandkids, right? I have a lot of patients, they want to golf again or play games again and be able to shuffle cards again, or whatever it might be. What activity do you want to do again? I want to introduce you to Dusty. Dusty said this. Dusty said, what the heck? We can fix dogs, but we can't fix humans. They've been fixing dogs for 8 to 10 years. There's got to be someone who can fix humans. When Dusty said this, he was on a walker, his feet shuffled as he walked, he had knee pain, hip pain, he was not living life the way that he wanted to. But before I keep telling you about Dusty, I want to introduce you to Marianne. Marianne's story is told in a book called Stem Cell Therapy by Neil Riordan. I highly recommend this book. Dr. Neil is one of the godfathers on stem cell therapy. So Marianne, one day, she's a successful real estate agent. She'd like to show about 50 to 75 houses in the DFW Metroplex where I live. But one night, she's sitting at her kitchen table, and it started off as any other night, and she was filling out a client report. She had her pen out, and she's writing out her report. And all of a sudden, she felt this immense pain in her hand. Maybe think about the first time that you felt your pain and how bad it was, and maybe how much it surprised you. And she looked down, and she wasn't just in pain, but she looked at her hand, and she had a fair complected hand like mine, but in this moment her hand wasn't white. It was like the vegetable beet red, like a dark red. And she got really concerned. And what have we been programmed to do whenever we feel pain, whenever we're uncomfortable? We have been programmed to take medicine. So she went to her medicine cabinet, found some hard stuff from a leftover root canal dental visit, and she took codeine, knocked out. A day or two later, she went to her doctor's office, very concerned, wondering what the doc can do for her. And the doctor's like, Marianne, hold up your hand. And she held up her hand. And her hand didn't look like mine. Her fingers were curling towards her middle finger. And the doctor said, oh, I know what you have. He said, Marianne, you have rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis, arthritis affects 30 million Americans, 1 out of 10 of us it affects. But rheumatoid arthritis is the autoimmune version. It starts in one location, but then it spreads throughout the body. So he did what most doctors do. What do you think that was? He prescribed medication. So he prescribed her a drug called methotrexate. What does medication normally have? A side effect. It's different for all of us, how it's going to hit us. Well, this side effect, when she took it, it gave her a bad upset stomach. She went from eating 2 or 3 meals a day to only eating once or twice a day. Went back to the doctor, said, "Doc, I don't want to take this anymore. Like, I have bad side effects." So he put her on a different one. This time he put her on Enbrel. And Enbrel, she would have to inject into her legs, but it gave her another side effect. It would give her these big red rashes the size of pancakes on her right thigh. Went back to the doctor. This time he gave her Arava. But Arava had even worse side effects. It gave her terrible diarrhea 2 to 3 times a day. Suffered through it, but she's getting worse. She's running out of hope and went back to the doctor. And this time he's like, "You know what? I'm going to put you on the first drug again. I'm going to put you on methotrexate, but the injectable version. Oh, and there's more. This drug costs $1,561 every single month, but she's running out of options. She paid for it. She started taking it. She described it as injecting herself with food poisoning. She took it or injected it on a Monday night. On Tuesday and Wednesday, she was on the floor in a fetal position, sick as a dog, couldn't go to work, couldn't live life like she wanted to. But Thursday, Friday rolled around. She got some better, got up, started moving, ran some errands, could eat again. Saturday, Sunday were great. She was back to work. But Sunday night, she had this gnawing thought in her head that Monday night's coming, and I got to do all of this over again. She was talking to a friend in South Texas in Corpus Christi. She said, "Marianne, there's a seminar. It's about regenerative therapy, about stem cells. I think you should come and check it out." Well, I'm going to put pause on Marianne. I want to reintroduce you to Dusty. Remember you saying, "What the heck? We can treat dogs, but we can't treat humans?" That doesn't make any sense. See, Dusty was a decorated Navy pilot. Think the movie we all love, Top Gun. Think Maverick, but Maverick wasn't decorated. We love him, but his bosses didn't love him. Maybe that's why we like him so much. But Dusty was a decorated Navy pilot, had a successful career, but by the time he got to his 50s, his health started falling apart. By the time he was 60, doctors said he needed both knees replaced and his hip replaced. Went home to his girlfriend, told his girlfriend what the doctor's diagnosis was. Said, "Babe, I need a knee replacement on both and a hip replacement." She said, "Dusty," she's like, "my first husband was a vet, and he had his own vet clinic. And I remember they used to bring dogs in, and dogs with like arthritic legs and feet, and he would just give them a shot of stem cells. And usually days, sometimes weeks, sometimes a month later, the patient or the owners would bring their dogs back, and the dogs would be running again. They'd be pain-free again. They'd be acting like puppies, full of energy." She said, "I wish we could do that for humans." See, right now in this year that I'm doing this, 2024, this is available to people like you right here in the United States. But back then in 2010, it wasn't available yet. This didn't become legal in the States till 2016 to receive donated tissue, stem cells, that I'll tell you about in just a few minutes. So Dusty got on his computer, found a clinic in Panama City, and he made an appointment, and he flew there. He got 1 injection in each knee and 1 injection in his hip. What was his response? He said this. He said, "I went down there and I got treatment. And 10 days later, I had no symptoms. I had been suffering from this for 20 years, and they cured me with stem cells in only 10 days. Can you imagine if you got treated after this video, and 10 days later from now, that you felt better, that you didn't have painful symptoms? Can you imagine that? Maybe, maybe not. That's what happened to Dusty. Well, Dusty, imagine if this happened to you, what would you do? Would you tell anybody? Would you tell everybody you know? I've had patients that responded this quickly or quicker. A lot of them will take longer than 10 days, but I've had patients where they got better and they tell everybody they know. And that's half of my business is referrals. Well, he does his own seminar in Corpus Christi, invites his doctor out. You can watch Dusty's speech right here on YouTube. Search his name, Dusty Durrell. Well, he does a seminar in Corpus Christi, and who's in the audience? Marianne. And Marianne hears Dusty's story, and she's filled with something she hasn't been filled with in a long time. Hope. Maybe you feel that as well right now. She got in the car. She drove back to Dallas, and she's real excited to tell her doctor all about it. Said, Doc, do you do this? Do you treat people with stem cells? Can this cure me? And the doctor lifted his nose up at her and said, Marianne, you're not even in a wheelchair yet. Why would I treat you with stem cells? Can you imagine if the doctor said that to you? She probably would have stormed out of his office, but she was actually at that appointment to begin with because she had to have a blood test because the medicine that they had given to her and prescribed her that was FDA approved had just been recalled because patients were coming back because they had ground glass in their blood system. Can you imagine? She had the blood test taken, left the office, and she made an appointment with the stem cell therapy clinic in Panama. See, at the time, there was a handful or two of good American doctors that wanted to see American patients get better, that knew patients just didn't have to stay on drugs or surgery, that there were alternative holistic treatments available. By this time, her health had deteriorated so badly that it took her 4 minutes to walk from one side of the room to the other. She was treated. You know what her response was? She said this, within 2 months, I was 95% better, virtually pain-free and with no swelling. She went down 75% on her medication, went from 14 aspirin a day to 2, was back to working, back to exercising, could even outrun people that were 10 to 15 years younger than her. You know, I could take the rest of our time together and just tell you stories, but I want to give you 4 points about stem cells. What are they? How do they work? What do they do? Number 1, stem cells are your body's natural pharmacy. When your pain signals go off, your healing response floods in. See, every time that you were sick, anytime you broke a bone, anytime you had a disease, you had dormant stem cells in your body that rushed to the scene to heal and repair you. The problem is as you get older, your stem cell production that happens naturally in your body drops off a cliff and you don't heal like you used to. You know, there's different types of stem cells. There's a lot more than what I'll teach you about, but I just want to throw 5 your direction. They'll throw this on the screen. Number 1 is embryonic, then fetal, amniotic. You'll notice these 3, they're all in the pregnancy phase. Some of these have gotten a bad rap for 2 reasons. 1 is for ethical reasons, and 2 is because they just don't work that well. 4 is what the company that I'm in, this is what we use. These are postnatal stem cells. How we get it, this is umbilical cord blood or tissue from a healthy live birth. So after a baby has come full term and the mother's given birth to the baby, how was the baby attached to their mom? How are you attached to your mom? An umbilical cord. What happens to the umbilical cord? They cut it. Then what happens? Now, moms have the decision. They can either throw it away or they can donate it to science, where companies like ours can go and buy it. And then it goes through 52 rounds of testing under the umbrella of the FDA. And we use the top 2 to 3% of what we buy to treat patients right here in the United States. That's what we use. That's the only type of stem cells that we use are postnatal stem cells. And the 5th one I want to mention, it's adult stem cells. If you're watching this and you're over 18, this is what you have, adult stem cells, but they're not near as powerful anymore. You don't have near the amount that you had when you were young, which is why it takes you longer to heal. So what does this look like in the body? This is what we call pericytes. See, in your body, you have your heart, and then in your heart, you have arteries that are spreading the blood and oxygen flow throughout your body to your different limbs. Well, on these arteries throughout your body are pericytes. Peri just means around the cell. So when the body signals an injury, pericytes are recruited to help heal tissues, at which point they become activated as MSCs. What is an MSC? For the rest of our time together, anytime that I say stem cell, this is what I'm talking about, because this is all we use. MSCs are a cell therapy of choice. It stands for mesenchymal stem cells, and it works in 4 main ways. If you remember anything that I say, I want you to remember this thing. It controls inflammation, it modulates the immune system, it stimulates regeneration, and it reduces scarring. So number 1, it controls inflammation. If you were to get on your phone or open a browser on your phone or your laptop, wherever you're watching this right now, and you started to Google, hey, what are patients' responses to getting stem cell therapy? You would actually see some patients say, man, it's been 4, 6, 7 days. I feel better already. I had a patient text me recently. She got treated on a Friday. She was already feeling better the next day. How does that happen? That's way too quick for stem cells to work all the way through to stimulate regeneration. What they experienced was their inflammation went down. You know, 60% of people that are older than 55, their pain, their symptoms is a direct result of excess inflammation. So in their feet, their hands, maybe in an elbow, maybe in the knees. And the first thing MSC stem cells do is it attacks and brings down inflammation. It's like, for instance, like a fridge. If you have a fridge, you put a magnet on it, it sticks to the fridge. That's what MSCs do. They are attracted to inflammation, to injury, and they go to heal and repair what is going on. See, it takes longer for stem cells to fully regenerate, but some patients that get healed very quick, they experience their symptoms go down. They think it's all done from there. It's not done. They're only going to get better. But the people that are getting better really, really quick, that's what they're experiencing. Number 2, it modulates the immune system. What does that mean? It strengthens your immune system. If you were to Google patient response times to getting better from stem cell therapy, what would they say? You know, some people, you know what nobody's saying? No 70-year-old is saying, hey, I feel like I'm 18 again. Nobody's saying that. There are no 93-year-olds who took it that look my age. Nobody's saying that. You know what people are saying though? A lot of people say this. I feel like I'm 10 to 15 years younger again. We have 75-year-old patients that are getting treated, and they're saying months later or weeks later down the line and even years after the fact, I feel like I'm 60, 65 again. I feel younger. I don't feel like I'm a teenager, but I feel like I used to feel. It strengthened their immune system. And then it stimulates, number 3, it stimulates regeneration. See, when you're created, there was 220 different types of cells that created you. They had a destination. Some of them created your fingers, some your hair, some your eye color. 219 of the 220 had a destination. Only one of the cells didn't have anywhere to go. Do you want to guess what it was? Stem cells. They were dormant throughout your body, and they're all throughout your body waiting to be needed. That's why they can go anywhere in your body and help heal and repair what is going on. So it stimulates regeneration. Here's a few slides of some of our patients that I'll go to, but first I want to show you this. It's been shown that a single injection of stem cells slashes the risk of heart attack or stroke by 58%. So this doesn't just fix the problem after the fact, it also works as a preventative. So here's some of our patients. Here's someone, this is their knee. If you look at the picture on the left, what is that? That's bone on bone. There's no cartilage there. Well, this patient was treated, and 104 days later, you see that space in between their bone? It's cartilage. They're not bone on bone anymore. See, one of the reasons, the main reason we use MSCs is they're so versatile. They can grow into bone, they can grow into muscle, tissue, fat. They can grow into what you need it to be. Here's another patient. They weren't near as bad. They had some bone on one side, they had some cartilage on the other. They were injected, and within 93 days, they had about 3 millimeters of spacing and cartilage on the other side. Here's another patient. This is for the back. This patient took them 24 months to feel better. I don't want to act like every patient gets better in 10 days or 2 months. Some of them take longer. Most of our patients do get better in 4 to 8 months, about half in the first 6 months and the other half the next 6 months. But I also want to show you this. One of our patients, our back patients, it took them 2 years to get all the way better. But you know what's key here? They did get better. I want to play this video for you. Some of you may learn through auditory, but some of you learn visually. This is a visual representation of how stem cells work in your body.
Stem cells are the master cells of the body, the building blocks of tissues and organs. The umbilical cord and the blood left in it at birth contain a broad diversity of pristine newborn stem cells that have demonstrated the ability to help other tissues and organs heal themselves after injury or disease. While researchers have yet to identify every type of newborn stem cell, they have isolated specific stem cells that are the building blocks for other cells and organ tissue throughout the body. Mesenchymal stem cells, found primarily in the umbilical cord tissue itself, have the ability to help form bone or connective tissues like cartilage and ligaments. Stem cells from the umbilical cord and cord blood have distinct benefits compared to adult stem cells from bone marrow. They're younger, have greater ability to multiply, and have had minimal exposure to environmental factors like viruses or chemicals that can interfere with cell structure and function. Researchers theorize that this diverse population of cells functions like a symphony, each type of cell having a different role to perform in healing damaged tissue and cells. Current research suggests that newborn stem cells help orchestrate a natural repair process by helping to reduce inflammation, stimulate the growth of blood vessels, improve blood flow to injured areas, and ultimately enabling injured cells to repair themselves.
One of the things I want you to notice about that video is that stem cells create blood vessels in your body. So we have a lot of patients, they struggle with maybe neuropathy in their feet or their hands. That can be painful. Some people don't have great pain and neuropathy. They have weakness or numbness or tingling to where they almost can't feel everything that's beneath them on their feet as they walk. They have a hard time walking. Well, what this does is stem cells, they help create blood vessels, and it redirects. You have more blood flow, oxygen in your body. It sends nutrients throughout your bodies to heal the problem. You know, as many conditions or diseases or all these different things that doctors diagnose us with, it sounds really, there's a lot of different things, but when you really boil down to it, most conditions that we suffer from is a lack of blood flow. It's a lack of oxygen. Heart attack is what? It's a lack of blood flow. Stroke, lack of oxygen flow, right? All those different things. Stem cells help create what you need: more blood flow, more oxygen flow, blood vessels in your body. And the fourth thing that stem cells do is it reduces scarring. Now, a lot of people don't get treated because, they're like, I want the scar to go down, right? Kind of a costly way to do that. But I have a scar. See, when I talk about stem cells, I'm not just some young guy that's never been through anything, that's never had pain. I've experienced pain. I wish I got to wait till I was 60 or 70 or 80 to go through painful stuff, but I didn't have that option in my life. When I was 18 years old, one of the top questions you get when you're 18, as you know, is what do you want to be when you grow up? What are you going to do? What college are you going to go to? Well, I was one of the fortunate 18-year-olds. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And I had my college lined up. I had an in-person internship, all those things. But I remember I loved to play sports just for fun. I wasn't much good at it, but I am extremely competitive. But I was playing sports for fun with some of my friends. And I went knee to knee with a guy. And nothing happened to him. But when my knee hit his knee, my kneecap shattered into pieces. To this day, I don't have a kneecap in my left leg. Well, I went to the emergency room, and I kept getting passed from doctor to doctor over the next few weeks. And I finally ended up at an endpoint referral doctor. And that is what it sounds like. It's the last doctor. At this time, there was only 7 doctors in this field for the knee in the United States. And I went to this doctor, and I'm indebted to him to this day. And he said, Brandon, he said, you have tumors all throughout your knee. He said, and these just aren't normal tumors in your knee. These tumors are going straight to your lung. And if these tumors get on your lung, we have to take your lung out. He said, Brandon, you only have 2 lungs. This could be the end of the road. We got to get you in surgery immediately. And I had 2 surgeries to get the tumors out. They did as best they could. About 4 to 6 months later, the tumors came back. And when I was 19 years old, I had a full total knee replacement in my left leg. I have a 16-inch incision on my left leg. Went through a lot of physical therapy, a lot of pain. Surgery is no fun. If you can avoid it, obviously avoid it. But I got about half my mobility back. Well, I was on a mission trip a couple years later, and the toilet overflooded in the hotel room I was in that night. And it wasn't carpeted, and I slipped and fell, my leg went all the way back. See, when I had my third surgery, they almost amputated my leg. They had to do like a lot of reconstruction. They took part of my calf out to put it over my thigh, attached from my femur to my steel knee. Well, my leg went all the way back. I thought I tore that calf muscle that was on my femur off my knee replacement because my leg went all the way back. And I didn't know this, but my pain tolerance was super high at the time, and I was back walking the next day in Costa Rica. Couldn't find crutches. Came back, walked to the airport to DFW, went to my surgeon's office, and he about cussed me out. I felt like, he said, Brandon, he's like, we're not going to operate, but what are you doing walking in on this? He said, you broke your femur on both sides. Through that, I developed a lot of scar tissue and lost almost all of my mobility I had in my left leg to this day. So I get pain. I get what injuries can do to you. But the reason I bring this up is not just to relate with you. But the reason I bring this up is, like I told you earlier, I've received this treatment. And I was treated, and a few weeks later, I was walking around my house, and I wasn't wearing a sport coat or anything like that. I was just wearing t-shirts and shorts, and my wife looked at my leg. She said, Brandon, she said, look down. I looked down. She's like, look at your left leg. And I looked. She's like, notice how much lighter your scar is. It's not red. It's not dark. It's like a light pink. She's like, the stem cells did that. I was like, oh my goodness, like it did. That's wild. See, stem cells reduce your scarring. Maybe it's not going to eliminate it completely, but it's one of the things that it does. The second thing I want to teach you about stem cells is this. Stem cells heal your underlying issue, but medicine masks your symptoms. So medicine degenerates and breaks down. Stem cells regenerate and build up. So for instance, I asked you earlier if you've had a shot before for pain, and I joked around and said something else, but maybe you've had a cortisone shot for pain before. Well, cortisone shots, and most doctors should tell you this. Well, all of them should. Some of them choose not to. A lot of patients, whenever I do these seminars, they have no idea about this till I say it. But cortisone shots actually degenerate your body. They degenerate your bone, your tissue. Doctors should never give you more than 3 in the same location because it starts to break down the joint. I've had patients that have had 8, 10, 12, 15 shots before they ever heard of stem cell therapy. They had no idea not to do this, and they wonder why it's not working, and they're getting worse and worse. The stem cells, on the other hand, they regenerate. They build up. So this picture I want to show you, what's this a picture of? Pills. What country is that? If you live here in America, that's America. That's us. You know, America accounts for about 4.5 to 5% of the world's population now. What percentage of the world's medication do you think we take? 85%. Do you think that we should be taking 85% of the world's medication? Absolutely not. But why do you think we are? Money. Money. I'll tell you, I'm going to show you a news article in a second, but you know that our doctors, they have us on a 3-step treatment plan. They never told us that. But number 1, you've probably done this, ignore it. I don't want to go to the doctor. But 2, get so bad you go and then you medicate it. You manage it. Pills, shots. Number 3, replace or operate. Have surgery. Now, I'm not anti-surgery. I had to have surgery. Our company, we don't actively treat cancer or tumors. Stem cells have been shown to shrink tumors. There are other companies to do that. Our company has chosen not to do that. I'm not anti-surgery, but if you can avoid it, man, avoid it. Please, if you can't avoid it, it's no fun at all. One of the reasons I'm here today is to tell you there is an alternative way to treat. There's a root cause. What we do is we deal with the root cause and eliminate it through stem cells. Did you guys see this news article? Illinois doctors accepted $74 million in industry payments last year. You know, most doctors, when they give you a prescription, you know, they get a kickback. They don't just get paid from your visit. They get paid from the big pharma companies for giving you medication. You probably know this. There's a danger to taking prescription medications. 235,000 people die yearly from adverse drug reactions. 145,000 people die yearly from unnecessary surgery, and almost 1 out of 2 of all hospital visits are from adverse drug reactions. You know, the British Medical Journal, they did a study on us, Americans, on what makes us die. Number 1, you can guess, heart disease. Number 2, cancer. Number 3, medical error. Wrong prescription, mistaken surgery, medical error. Number 3 way that we die as Americans. How about this chart on the screen? America is 40th in life expectancy. 40! Do you think we should be 40? I don't. I think we should be 1, 3, 5. We have some of the most resources, some of the brightest minds, some of the greatest hospitals. Yet here we are, number 40 in the world in life expectancy. Why is that? Because of this. The real reason? A patient cured, there's a customer lost. You know, you may know this, you may not know this, but your hospital, your doctors, Big Pharma, they have you on a reoccurring payment plan. And as long as you don't get all the way better, they got your money. And they're getting rich off of you. They don't want you to get all the way better, despite what they say, because then they lose you. As a customer, a patient cured is a customer loss. Do you have Netflix? There's a documentary on Netflix as I record this video. It's called Painkillers. Matthew Broderick is in it. And I'll save you the time on watching it, and feel free to watch it if you want. But about 25 years ago, you know, stem cell therapy was almost widely introduced to the American public. But then a company in Big Pharma stepped in front of the line and said, no, you don't need to do stem cell therapy. And they introduced a drug that starts with an O. Do you know what it is? Oxy. And they introduced it to the public, and within 6 months, 500,000 people died in America. Emergency rooms were flooded with patients from oxy overdose. What do you think they did? Do you think they recalled it? No, they didn't recall it. They doubled down. They spent 5 times the marketing dollars to try and convince your parents' generation that this was the normal, acceptable way of being treated through commercials on TV. Told your parents' doctors about it. This is normal. This is how you get treated. You know, millions and millions of people have died from oxy overdose, from opioid overdose. There was an article in the news in the last year. The main pharma company that introduces Purdue Pharma, they were settling $8.1 billion worth of lawsuits, less than 1% of the revenue. Do you think anybody went to jail for that? You think anybody went to jail for the millions of people that were murdered? No, nobody went to jail. Do you think they should have? I do. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of pharmaceutical companies. I'm a holistic guy myself. I got to tell you, and you already know this, there's a lot of good doctors, a lot of good hospitals, clinics. There's people that are doing good work in the world. Some you've probably heard of. There's a great hospital in California called Cedars-Sinai. You know, they've been putting their money and research in cures into skeletal regeneration, into bone density. Because you know, as you age, bone density becomes a problem. And you know what they found out? That stem cells help form and harden bone. They help your bone density. How about this? Cleveland Clinic. They've been putting their money and research into therapy for heart disease. Did you see this in the news? Scientists successfully grow a full-size beating heart using stem cells. Did you see that? You know, I do these seminars every single week, multiple every single week. You know, I've only had 4 people that ever saw this article. Don't you think this should be in the news? That this is a new way to treat heart disease. You know, one-day stents and open bypass surgery will be a thing of the past, but not as long as they have a way into your pockets. But we could be treated with stem cell therapy. This is how we treat patients. And I'll tell you more about that later. Here's another clinic, Johns Hopkins. They wrote the protocol that we use for joint repair. Knees, ankles, elbows, shoulders, backs do really well with this therapy. Third thing I want to teach you is this. Stem cells are like money in your bank. When your body's natural reserve runs out, an external source can deposit back in. You know, most people, as far as money goes, are middle class. Some are upper, some are lower. Same way in stem cells. Most people are middle class when it comes to the stem cell production in their body. Some are upper class. I feel like my mom is upper class. The people like me and my dad, we've had a lot of fluke things happen in our lives. Probably lower class. We probably need more stem cells. There was a lady in Germany. She was the oldest living lady in the world. She passed away in 2008. She was 115 years old. She donated her body to science, and I'm not sure of a way to have this test done here in America, but she donated her body to science, and they counted her stem cells. Do you want to guess how many she had left? 2. Just 2? Isn't that amazing? See, it makes a lot of sense when you remember point number 1, which was what? Stem cells are your body's natural pharmacy. She ran out of her body's natural pharmacy, and then she ran out of the ability to live. It's going to be the same way for all of us. Even though we probably won't make it to 115, but when our stem cell production runs out, we run out. These are the 2 best ways that I know how to put it. Number 1, earlier today, when you drove home, did you show up in a limo? Probably not. Did you drive in a car? Yeah. How old's your car? 3, 5, 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old? Can you imagine if you drove a car that was 50, 60, 70 years old? That's an old car, man. And you never had an oil change? Do you think you would have got home in that car? Probably not. You need an oil change. This is like that. Your body is the car. All stem cell therapy is replacing old cells with new cells. That's all this is. Here's the second best way I know how to put it. Let's talk about stem cell production. If you're watching this and you're a grandparent, your grandbaby, when they were born, they regenerated or duplicated 1 billion stem cells every 30 days. That's a lot. Then you have people my age, mid-30s. My stem cell production went from 1 billion to now 32,000 every 30 days. Okay? Once you're in your mid-60s, you go from 1 billion to 32,000 to 200 stem cells. It's quite a big difference. Now does it make sense? Does it make sense why it's taking you forever to heal or why you're getting worse? It's because your stem cell production's fallen off a cliff. See, if you come into a life circumstance where you need 10,000 cells and you don't have 10,000, you could be in real trouble. See, this is where an alternative source like us comes in that can give you donated tissue from an umbilical cord. Day 1 stem cells regenerating in your system. Can you imagine? It's a totally different game. See, this has only been available in the States for the last 8 years, but stem cell therapy as a whole has been actually available in the States for the last 50 years, but they haven't been using donated. They've been using your own stem cells. See, 99% of clinics in America, they use your own stem cells, but this just doesn't work as well. Because if your stem cells are 60, 70 years old and it has that kind of production, do you think it's going to be really working on your body that well? I don't think so. In fact, if it does work, it probably won't work for that long. See, even if you were to go to a different company and use your own stem cells, I would highly suggest you go to somebody that's giving you day 1 stem cells. See, because your mesenchymal cells by age, I'm going to throw this up on the screen. As a newborn, 1 out of every 10,000 cells is a mesenchymal stem cells. But if you're in your 60s watching this, 1 out of every 2 million stem cells are mesenchymal stem cells. That's a totally different ball game. So if you got a doctor drilling into your hip, going into your bone marrow to then re-inject into your knees, not only is it invasive, but is that going to work? To use old stem cells? If it's not working currently, why would it work in another area? It might work, but why not just go past maybe it'll work to it will work and use mesenchymal stem cells? Growing up, I was born in the 80s child. My dad raised me on action movies, 80s and 90s action movies, right? We watched them on TV, Rocky, Terminator, the cheesy Chuck Norris Vietnam movies I loved. But some of my favorite were Lethal Weapon. You probably recognize this guy on the screen. This is Mel Gibson and his dad, Hut. When Hut was 92, his health is deteriorating rapidly. His lungs were congested, his kidneys were failing, his heart was failing. He had a really bad hip, needed a hip replacement, but doctors wouldn't operate on him because they didn't think he'd make it past the surgery. And his brain was super foggy, might have had some early dementia going on. They hadn't diagnosed as that, but he was hardly speaking because he had a lot of issues just throughout his body. And Mel's looking at his older dad that's 92 thinking, man, if I can just get his hip fixed, if I can just get his body moving, maybe that'll help him in other areas. So he started talking to leading doctors, had him with the top hip specialists at one of the top hospitals in Los Angeles. Nobody could really help him. Finally, he's looking for alternative therapy and regenerative therapy, and he's talked to a stem cell therapy doctor. And the stem cell therapy doctor had gone through different stuff that I've already taught you here on this video. But, you know, Mel is still kind of skeptical. Like, I don't see any commercials on this. Maybe I only know one or two people or know people that have had this. I don't know if I should do it. And the doctor's on the other line. He's like, Mel, he's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but what does your dad have to lose? How's what he's currently doing working for him? And Mel's like, you're right. And he went and he got his dad treated. And his dad got 2 treatments. He got an injection in his hip, and then he received a systemic IV. Now, I want to go time out really quick. This is how we treat patients. Maybe you're watching this, a friend or a family member sent this to you because they think this could help you. How would you be treated by our company? We treat people in 2 ways. Number one, so stem cell therapy has been approved to treat over 80 different conditions here in the States. If you're having disc degeneration in your back, spinal stenosis, arthritis, maybe in your knees or neuropathy in your feet, wherever the pain is, let's say the pain, you have arthritis in your hands, you would get an injection right here in your hand. It would spread throughout your hand and heal the issues that you have going on. So we treat local pain directly. It's a one-time treatment. But if you have an autoimmune condition, like Hut had as well, lung issues, heart issues, kidney issues, or maybe you have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or fibromyalgia or MS, something like that, you would receive an IV right here in your arm. So it's a push IV. It's not a drip IV. A lot of patients will get 3, sometimes 4 vials if it's really bad. And they'll get treated here. So time back in. So Hut, when he was treated, he got an injection in his hip for one-time treatment, and then he got a systemic IV, a few vials of IV. Well, he went home. 6 weeks later, he walked into his hip specialist doctor. Keep in mind, he could hardly walk at this time. But after he got therapy, he walked into a doctor's office without pain, and his doctor's doing one of these like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. His doctor didn't believe in stem cell therapy. He's like, this isn't going to work. But he's looking at the evidence in front of him. See, a man with an opinion can never stand in front of a man with an experience or an evidence and have anything to say on that because the evidence is right there in front of him. And Hut and Mel eventually did a seminar in their own home. Well, now that doctor is treating patients with stem cell therapy, and Hut's friends and Mel's friends have been treated with this. You can Google or YouTube this as well on Mel Gibson and his dad as well. So Hut, not only could he walk without pain, but his kidneys improved, his heart improved, his breathing improved, even his brain cleared up, and he started talking coherently and having conversation again. He gained 20 pounds in 6 weeks. Even the pigment of his hair got 1 shade darker, and he didn't need glasses anymore. Do you want your hair to be darker? Absolutely, right? It worked like that. See, typically, if you're older, it works even better because chances are you don't have a lot of stem cells left. So Hut, this picture on the screen is Hut at his 100-year-old birthday party. The next year, he passed away at 101. Mel said, I got more quality years with my dad. He was still alive at 92, but we weren't getting quality time together. Now we did, thanks to stem cell therapy. The last point I want to teach you on is this. Stem cells are your breath of fresh air. You can go from limited to maximum capacity. It's a picture of Bernie and Billy Marcus. 1978, Bernie was working at a hardware store. His manager thought he was incompetent and fired him. And Bernie's like, well, I'll show him. Him and his buddy Arthur started their own hardware store. They called it Home Depot. Doing fairly well for themselves today. He's running Home Depot. Arthur owns the Atlanta Falcons. Well, one day, due to his success, obviously he gives a lot of keynote speeches. People would hire him, want to hear his success principles. But he developed a lung condition called bronchiostasis, where his voice would get hoarse and he'd cough about 10 to 15 times an hour. Well, had all the money in the world, went to the top doctor, top hospital in the States. What do you think they did to treat him? They gave him medicine. Even worse, they gave him an antibiotic which kills cells. Left him on it for 2 years. He got progressively worse. And bonus, he had digestion issues now. Heard about stem cell therapy, got treated one time, got injections right here in his arm. Within a few months, he said he was 90% better. Well, there's his wife, Billy. She used to be really active, loved to golf, but now she had bad knees. Doctor said she needed 2 knee replacements. Was in a wheelchair by now whenever she had to go long distances or even just an average distance. She went and got treated. She got 1 injection in each knee. Within 3 weeks, she was back to golfing 4 times a week, a full 18 holes. 1 injection, 1 time. You know, this has been going on in the States for about 8 years now, and we have our research such and our evidence on everybody that's been treated. 7 out of 10 people in the States have never needed another treatment. It's not meant to be temporary. It's meant to be long-lasting, a permanent solution. There's a lady named Sylvia. She came to a live seminar like this, heard all these stories, didn't believe it. Said it's too good to be true. But she had a friend who she brought with her that did believe. She said, you know what, Sylvia, I'm going to pay for your treatment. Paid for her treatment. See, Sylvia's lung capacity at this time was 41%. She was treated 1 time with stem cell therapy. Within a few months, her lung capacity was 100%. See, when you're treated with a systemic IV, the first 2 places it goes is your lung and then your heart. Why? Because your body's intuitive. You need air to breathe and you need blood to beat. What other lung issues? How about this? COPD. You know, I have patients come to our seminar and their spouses passed away from this. But now we know, and we treat people with this, stem cells can heal damaged lung tissues. It can grow new blood vessels. The healing is similar to neuropathy. Maybe you smoked cigarettes when you were younger. Here's a slide on the screen. According to the National Institute of Health, COPD is the number 3 leading cause of death in the U.S. and number 2 worldwide. 12 million Americans are diagnosed with this, and 15 million are undiagnosed. Stem cell therapy can reverse and repair the damage caused by COPD, whether you know you have it or not. How about this CT scan of chest pulmonary fibrosis before and after? Look at all that scar tissue in the lungs. They were treated after IV therapy. The scar tissue disappeared. So those are the 4 things I wanted to teach you about stem cells, what they are, what they do, how it can help you. Maybe you have some questions. I do these all the time, and I've compiled a list of the most frequently asked questions. I want to go over them with you right now. So here's the question. How long will it take to feel better? Every patient varies. 1 out of 2 of our patients actually start to feel some improvement within 4 to 6 weeks. They're not done healing. I say about 25% better, and they get progressively better. Now, on the same hand, 1 out of 2 of our patients, they see all their improvement in the first 6 months. The other half see the improvement within 12 months. Remember, this is a regenerative process. It's typically not an overnight deal. So what we offer as a company is this. And I don't know of any other clinics that do this. There may be clinics that do this, but what we offer is this. If you are not 50% better within 12 months, and these are your words, not ours, could be quality of life, could be pain threshold. If you're not 50% better within 12 months, we will give you 80% off your second treatment. Why do we do that? Number 1, we want you to be better, but number 2, we hardly ever have to do this. We only have a few percent of patients that come back and say they're not at least 50 to 75 or more percent better. This stuff works. Here's a picture of neuropathy. This is the number 3 thing that I see in patients. I see back, number 1, then knee, then neuropathy. Before implantation, see the lack of blood vessels, the lack of blood flow in their body, and then 6 months after. Look at that. Here's another slide. Stem cell therapy for neuropathy. You see that foot on the left? What's wrong with that? 4 toes. See, doctors don't tell you. They have a 4-step process of healing for neuropathy. Number 1, ignore. Number 2, medicate it. Number 3, surgery. Number 4, amputation. And they have to cut off toes or fingers to save the joint. Look at before and after treatment, the 14-week difference. It's amazing. Here's another question. Are there any side effects or pain? You already know the side effects or pain to surgery. But for regenerative therapy, it's just the normal discomfort that's associated with an injection. Millions of people have received this treatment, and no one has had an adverse reaction yet. The only thing that we ever see is called a healing response. Some people call it a healing crisis. I actually experienced this, and I'm glad I did. So I got a systemic IV. I just got 1 vial for general wellness. And just so you know, probably about 35 to 40% of our patients, maybe they come to a seminar and they're supporting a loved one or a friend and they don't have any pain. They get what's called a wellness IV, which is what I got. This is for general wellness in their body. It helps improve your immune function. You have more energy, helps protect against things further down the line. I told you earlier, 60% of people that get this injection, they don't have a heart attack or stroke later on. I've seen improvement in my health, in my lungs, in my hydration ever since I've had this as well. So it's worked for me. It's worked for a lot of people. But a lot of people receive this IV. So I got this IV. But for about 3 to 5 hours after I got my treatment, I felt like I got punched in the arm for about 3 to 5 hours. Now, for some of you, you'd love to feel like that, and you have way worse pain. But then I went to sleep. I felt fine the next day. So all that is people my age probably have about 200 million stem cells left in their entire body. I received 40 million stem cells all here at once. And that was just my body working. But then it spread, went through my internal organs, and I was just fine after that. That's the only side effect we ever see. Most people never have that side effect, but I did. How about this? Can you treat multiple body parts at once? The answer is yes. Our bodies already have MSCs inside of us, and this isn't a drug. You can't overdose on this. When you were younger, you had way more than what we can treat you with. What I do when we treat patients, when I send the medical team out to people to treat patients, is I never let people have more than 5 injections. So maybe you have your knees treated, maybe you get a systemic IV, maybe you have neuropathy in your feet. I always hold it at 5 or less, because if you get more than 5, the chances greatly improve that you could have a healing response. And I don't want you to have to feel that or have that discomfort. You can always get more things treated later on. How long does the treatment take? So this treatment just takes 10 to 20 minutes a joint. This isn't an overnight deal. You don't have to travel for this. I'm going to let you know about our white glove service in just a little while. How many treatments will I need? The goal is just one time. This isn't 12 weeks. This isn't months. This isn't years. This is a one-time treatment. Maybe you have autoimmune conditions. This is something we would do 2 to 3 visits max, all within a span of 2 to 3 months. Does insurance cover this? I'm going to let you answer that. No. They've chosen not to cover this because the patient cured is a customer loss. How about this question? Do you have to be compatible? The answer is no. There hasn't been one adverse reaction yet. This isn't blood. These are cells. The birthing tissue and cells are immune privileged. It can't be rejected. A lot of people have been treated with this, notable athletes. Peyton Manning, whenever his career looked like it ended with the Indianapolis Colts, he went overseas, got treated with stem cell therapy, was able to come back to play football, went to 2 Super Bowls with the Broncos. Tiger Woods was treated with this. Jack Nicklaus was treated with stem cells. He had back issues, couldn't stand 10 minutes without pain, had to quit playing golf. He was treated. 5 months later, he could start playing golf again. A lot of people have been treated with this. I can name person after person after person, either that you've heard of or that you haven't heard of. Our company personally has treated tens of thousands of patients. Another person that's used this, one of the top podcasts in the nation, Joe Rogan. This is what Joe Rogan had to say about being treated with stem cells.
Yeah, I've had a bunch of stem cells shot into my shoulder that healed it up. But I had some pretty significant shoulder injuries.
Yeah. You did the labor room surgery, rotator cuff? Nothing?
No surgery. But I had a full-length rotator cuff tear.
Oh, okay.
And they used exosomes, and it was gone. The next MRI I had, the tear was gone.
Yeah.
Just, it goes, It just seals up. And I went through the rehab, and then I got another MRI like 6 months later, 8 months later, whatever it was. When it started feeling good, they said, well, let's take a look at it. And they were like, holy. Like Dr. Roddy McGee from Vegas, who does a lot of the UFC stuff, he goes, do you know how crazy that is? He's like, your tear is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. There's new stuff now called Wharton's jelly that is even more powerful than any of the previous stem cell ones. And I had that shot into my shoulder too.
And that's all in the States?
All in the States, yeah. The stuff in the States now is way more potent than it was just 5 years ago.
Okay. Because I heard
way more. They do IV stem cells too.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So what exactly does it help? Does it help with like
regenerate soft tissue?
So like, would that be like a tendon, a ligament?
Tendons, ligaments, muscle injuries, things along those lines. They can regenerate ligaments, regenerate tissue, tears. You know, like stuff where you ordinarily would have to get things sewn up. Like
That's a wild experience. He described his shoulder as being sewn up. Couldn't even explain it. This is stem cell therapy at work. So what do we do as a company? We offer white glove service. What is that? It's a premium benefit available to all patients and allows you to be evaluated and treated in your own home. One of the only good things that came out of COVID was white glove service. You used to have to be able to drive up to the clinic or fly up to the clinic, stay overnight, be treated. Now, since we're a national company, we have providers throughout the country and we send them to you, these nurse practitioners. They come to your home, living room, kitchen, wherever you like, and they can treat you in the comfort and the safety of your own home. Believe it or not, the wealthy, the elite, they've been getting treated like this for decades. Now it's available to the everyday man and woman like me and you. Our white glove service allows us to bypass the wait time and get you treated in the comfort of your own home. People love this. They love the medical care and the top-notch service we provide to them and for them. I had a patient send me this video after hearing the seminar, and this patient elected to get treated, had phenomenal results. But she sent me this video. She said, Brandon, you got to play this. So I've been playing this in seminars ever since. It talks about how we have two different futures ahead of us, and we get to choose what type of future we have.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
It's pretty sobering. You know, we all have two futures in front of us. And my belief is that stem cells can help you age like the healthy person on the left side of that video. This is something new that's available to millions of people worldwide. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I just want to teach you about stem cells. If this is something that you want to be treated with, or you'd like a complimentary pre-screen, all that means is that you have a chance to ask me questions. I run through about 10 to 15 questions on your medical history to see if you're a candidate. We don't treat just anybody. There's a few things that we look for. I have to tell people no on a weekly basis, but we treat candidates that we're very confident that this will work on them. So if you would like a free pre-screen, leave a comment, do a direct message, and we can set up a time to meet virtually over the phone. See if you're a candidate, and I can give you a direct price for what your treatment would be. Our cost, our financial investment right now, just to tell you, I'll give you a range. Now, people used to go to Europe and get treated for this. They would spend upwards of $100 grand for stem cell therapy. Now, people aren't paying that much anymore. They're not paying $100 grand for stem cell therapy. Even like 20 years ago, maybe you got a big screen TV. Remember those big bulky TV screens, right? Now you can get TVs for cheaper than you could 20 years ago. There's doctors that I respect greatly. They're still charging people 25, 30 grand just to get one joint treated. Now, our company, we've treated tens of thousands of patients. Our range that we've come up with, this is good as of mid-July 2024. Our current range is about $4 to $18,000 per patient. That's the group pricing that we offer. In clinic, it's $7,000 to $24,000 per patient. But after the pre-screen, I can give you a direct price and you can decide if this is something that you'd like to move forward on. But thank you so much for joining me. I hope this improved you, that you're leaving better than the way that you came. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer it. Have a great day.